If you know me, you might know why I'm here. This is the City of Leeds, and this is where, in my opinion, the best children's TV programme of all time was filmed, My Parents Were Aliens, which ran from 1999 to 2006. The question I have for this documentary is, has children's TV regressed, and is it affecting the next generation's minds? Over the next 8 minutes, we'll be finding out about all this stuff. For those who don't know what I'm going on about, My Parents Were Aliens was an ITV sitcom that ran from 1999 to 2006, starring Tony Gardner as the eccentric and lovable alien Brian, with partner Sophie, originally played by Barbara Durkin, until Carla Mendonca took over the role from Series 3 onwards. The first episode also introduces us to their foster children, the Barker family, the sarcastic and protective oldest child Mel, manipulative but young lovable rogue Josh, and the youngest child prodigy Lucy. My Parents Were Aliens was kind of unique for the time it was broadcast. It tackled a lot of subjects that were actually quite advanced for the age range it was originally intended for. Here is a line that presents that perfectly from the first episode.
Pregnancy, drugs, eating disorder, shoplifting. Take your pick. I quite like the one about the drugs.
Melanie, I'm warning you.
These subjects were not as openly spoken about at the time, and it was very good, in my opinion, for the audience to be introduced to them, even at a younger age. A very obvious thing that I did notice, looking back retrospectively, is that Brian and Sophie, although presenting as male and female, didn't always stick to the stereotypes of their gender. This is something that writer Andy Watts admitted was intentional in an interview with Vice in 2019. As early as Series 2, Brian and Sophie were already written in this way. A famous thing I remember was when both Brian and Sophie had to speak to the headmaster at Mel's school about Mel wanting to wear trousers. Brian, in classic Brian fashion, turned up to the office wearing a pink skirt and tiara, while Sophie was wearing cargo trousers.
Oh, I think he wants us to leave, Brian.
You're wearing a skirt!
I felt this was probably something that was possibly good in teaching people to understand themselves better. Even years later, when I was looking through McCormack's TikTok account, discussing behind the scenes information, people were commenting things such as, Mel was my gay awakening, which does show the way Mel was written was really having an impact on the audience who were watching it at the time. The Series 4 episode, hilariously titled Beauty and the Breast, Brian spends the entire episode simply not understanding what gender any of his children are. Sophie says this.
Question.
Hit me.
Mel, boy or girl?
Girl.
How can you tell?
It's easy. She's not very sweet, she doesn't wear dresses, and she's tall.
What does that make Lucy?
Oh, Lucy's a boy, a sweet little boy who loves his mum.
What about Josh?
Something in between.
What?
This continues into a very odd but interesting episode, where Brian tries to get in touch with his feminine side, complete with a full makeover, which is an earlier example of trans representation in children's media.
Because I'm your mother, and I love you very much.
You're my what?
Okay, I'm your father. I'm in a very confusing place right now.
Although played for laughs, it does allow for future programmes to build on this. It was a kind of a trailblazer for this particular subject. Sophie also tried to get in touch with her masculine side, which included wearing ragged clothes and tinkering with house appliances.
The toolbox. I had a curious urge to meddle and tinker.
Ah, yes, meddling and tinkering. There's an old saying we dads have, you can't fix it until you've broken it.
Although it was all very stereotypical, it was also written in a very amusing way, and in truth was a very good message. And in terms of the quote from Andy Watts, I agree. They are aliens, they are posing as male and female, and their only example is the Galactic Guidebook, which is their guide for all things Earth-based, which is very old-fashioned.
You'd actually charge me for cleaning it?
Yes. Because I'm a man?
I beg your pardon.
You know, men get paid for what they do, women don't.
And where'd you get this idea from?
No.
The Galactic Guidebook. I wish I'd stopped reading that thing. It's rubbish. It was written ages ago when women actually wore pointy bras.
Parents Were Aliens had a very obvious peak in around Series 4 to Series 5, and has steadily declined after that. It went more wacky and outrageous and had less emotional depth after that point. Also added laugh tracks, which I feel does ruin a programme a little bit. But I also feel the impact from the early series was widely felt in that generation that first watched it. And it also did a lot of groundwork for programmes after it. This brings me on to the overriding point of my documentary, which is that it seemed to have gone backwards in terms of openness and depth, which is a shame. I feel more so than ever with my younger cousins that they don't really have the same level of understanding of the world that I had at the same age. When I was around 9 to 12 years old, we had stuff like Tracy Beaker, which shined a light on a lot of issues that needed to be discussed. This included death, grief, drugs, alcohol and addiction. The impressive thing about it for me is that it was such a good show for the entire family. Creator Andy Watts wrote it in a way that it could appeal to every generation, including modern cultural references, such as references to Justin Timberlake and Madonna.
We got Madonna!
Madonna! Madonna! I swapped her for a sausage!
We got Madonna!
Nice picture. Friend from school, is he?
No, Brian. It's Justin Timberlake. He's a singer.
Wow, you know a singer. Invite him round, let's have a sing-along.
Her jokes are a little bit naughty as well. Tony Gardner recalled a scene in an interview about Mr. Whiteside. Mr. Whiteside is obsessed with Kate Winslet, Gardner explains. On the show, Mr. Whiteside is a perpetually harangued maths teacher, usually found out doling out detentions in an ill-fitting suit. He has Kate Winslet on his wallpaper, and they got away in this scene with putting a picture of Kate Winslet next to his bed with a box of tissues. This is clearly a joke about something else, which I'll leave up to you.
Mr. Johnson?
The reason why I feel bad for this next generation is because they don't have the educational aspect on TV. TV is dying, and YouTube and TikTok are taking over with their nonsensical content that is poisoning people's minds. No brain rot by now. It's actually having a more detrimental effect than we first thought. Studies show that the upcoming generation is set to have the lowest IQ on average of any generation since they started recording this statistic, which is worrying, and it feels like it's due to the lack of educational content. Something I found out in interviews I did for my research was that there is this new thing that's being diagnosed in children called virtual autism. Virtual autism is not autism in its normal form. Virtual autism is where elements of autism are showing up in children who have had an excessive use of technology during their early years. Consuming content on phones is also causing development issues as well. This is due to children not learning depth perception. They can't differentiate between real life and the content they're watching. Investing more in traditional media and bringing back the educational side of it, social and academic, would really help bring these things back a bit and hopefully allow them to start developing like my generation and the ones before it. The primary reason large corporations have shifted the type of content they produce is, in my view, increased competition with platforms such as YouTube and TikTok. Rather than offering a clear alternative, many have adopted a similar approach, and if you can't beat them, join the strategy, which may ultimately have been a mistake. As a result, parents who wish to avoid this style of content are left with fewer accessible options, particularly when many alternatives are placed behind the paywall at a time when financial pressures are already significant. And with that, that's the end of my documentary. Hopefully one day soon we can get back to the glory days of TV where we can have the tough chats, the emotional moments and the slapstick and all that's in between, and we need to stop letting the children consume brain rot. Thank you for watching. I've been Robin. This is the end of my FMP, my end of my college journey. Thank you and good night.